So let's talk about AI. Right now, it feels like a game played by just a handful of tech giants, doesn't it? But what if there was a way to change the rules of that game? That's exactly what we're digging into today. We're going deep on Bittensor, a project that's not just another white paper, it's a living, breathing network for decentralized AI. We're going to break down how you, as an investor or a potential validator, can get in on the ground floor.
Yeah, this quote right here, it absolutely hits the nail on the head. I mean, think about it. We've all seen what happens when a few corporations control our information flow. Hello, social media, and now the exact same thing is happening with AI, which is arguably the most critical technology of our lifetime. Bittensor is basically saying no thank you to that future. It's building a totally different path, one that's open, permissionless, and frankly, a lot more democratic.
All right, here's our game plan for this deep dive. First, we'll unpack the whole AI centralization problem. Then, we'll get into Bittensor's solution, which is really cool. It's inspired by Bitcoin. We'll look at the engine that makes it all run, subnets and the TAO token. Then, we'll get into the real proof, looking inside Subnet 9. And finally, we'll wrap it up with your personal playbook for getting involved.
Okay, let's jump right in. The AI centralization problem. It sounds kind of dramatic, but honestly, it is a huge deal. Because if we don't get this right, a handful of big tech companies are going to gatekeep the most important technology of our era. So let's talk about why a permissionless alternative really matters.
You know, this isn't some new, scary future. We're already living it. When you concentrate ownership like this, a whole bunch of problems pop up. You get a total lack of transparency. Models become these weird black boxes where you have no idea why they're making certain decisions. There's a real potential for censorship. And maybe the biggest kicker, all the value that's created, often from your data, gets sucked up by these giant corporations, not the people actually contributing.
So the big question is, how do you even begin to fight something that big? How do you build an alternative? Well, Bittensor's solution is kind of genius, and it's inspired by something we're all familiar with, Bitcoin. They looked at how Bitcoin incentivizes a global network and thought, hey, what if we use that same crypto economic model to build the Internet of AI? And it's such an elegant idea when you break it down. You know, Bitcoin gets all this global computing power to secure a digital ledger, and it rewards miners with BTC for doing it. Bittensor does the exact same thing, but instead of securing a ledger, it's aggregating global compute to create machine intelligence. And instead of BTC, it rewards contributors with its native token, TAO. So you go from a decentralized supercomputer for money to a decentralized supercomputer for AI. It's a powerful shift.
What this creates is this incredible feedback loop. It's like digital Darwinism in action. You've got miners, who are really just people or teams providing AI services, constantly competing to solve problems. Then you have validators, who are like the judges. They evaluate all the work from the miners and rank them. And finally, the network automatically rewards the best performers with TIO. It's this fiery crucible of evolution, constantly pushing for better and better results.
Okay, so that's the high-level concept. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the engine that actually powers this whole thing. We're talking about subnets and the TAO token. This is really the core architecture of this decentralized intelligence market. So let's start with TAO. Think of it as the lifeblood of the whole network. And just like Bitcoin, it has a hard cap, a fixed supply of 21 million tokens ever. This is huge. It's used for everything, rewarding the miners and validators, participating in governance, and eventually for actually paying to use the AI services that the network produces. It's the economic glue holding it all together.
All right, and then we have subnets. This is where it gets really interesting. Subnets are basically independent, competitive marketplaces inside Bittensor. Each one is hyper-focused on producing a specific digital good. So you could have a subnet for text generation, another for data analysis, maybe one for creating 3D models. You name it. The best way to think about them is like individual startups, all competing within the bigger Bittensor economy to create the most valuable product.
Okay, theory is great, but does this competitive model actually, work? Does it produce anything good? This is the proof of work section. We're going to look at a real-world case study from inside Subnet 9, which focuses on training language models, one of the toughest nuts to crack in AI.
So take a look at this. This graph is, well, it's the proof right here. It shows something called perplexity loss over time on Subnet 9. Don't get hung up on the name. All it means is error rate. A lower number is better. It means the AI models are getting smarter, more accurate. And just look at that trend line. It's consistently going down. That is the visual proof of competition at work, driving constant improvement.
And this is the knockout punch. Look at this table. A model that was trained on Subnet 9, remember, by a decentralized network of contributors, went head-to-head with Falcon 7B, a massive model backed by an entire government. And the Subnet 9 model won. It had a better perplexity score. This is huge. It proves that this decentralized approach isn't just a cute idea. It can actually outperform massive centralized state-backed projects.
Okay, so we've seen the thesis, we've seen the proof. Now for the part you've probably been waiting for. How can you actually engage with this? Let's get into your Bittensor playbook, whether you're coming at this as an investor or a hands-on validator.
Fundamentally, there are two main paths you can take. On one side, you have the investor path. Your goal here is pretty straightforward. Get financial exposure to this growing ecosystem. On the other side, you have the validator path. This is for people who want to be more hands-on, actively participating in the network, evaluating miners, and helping to govern a subnet. Two different goals, two different levels of involvement.
So if you're going down the investor path, your game is to stake your Tau on the subnets you think have the most promise. And this means you've got to do your own research. Is the team shipping code? Is their community active? Are they making real progress? You can play it a couple of ways. Some people stick to the safer top 10 subnets, while others like to go gem hunting for newer, high-risk, high-reward projects. And hey, if you want more indirect exposure, there are even investment vehicles now like the Grayscale Bittensor Trust.
But maybe you want to get your hands dirty. If that's you, then the validator path is probably calling your name. This is where you actually become an active part of the network's consensus, right at the heart of a subnet's operations. And to become a validator, there is one number you absolutely have to know: 1,000. You need a minimum stake weight of 1,000 Tau to get a validator permit on a subnet. Now, that doesn't all have to be your own Tau. It can also be delegated to you by other investors who trust you to validate well on their behalf. And hitting that 1,000 stake weight is really just the entry ticket. There's a bit more to it. You have to have a registered hotkey, which is like your unique ID on that subnet. You need to rank in the top 64 nodes to actually earn emissions. You obviously have to meet that stake minimum. And of course, you've got to be able to run a node that meets whatever the compute requirements are for that specific subnet. It's not easy, but that's the point. It makes sure only serious, committed participants are running the show. So can a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens really change the world of AI? Bittensor's answer to that is a resounding yes. It's basically providing the framework, the permissionless blueprint for anyone, anywhere, to not just contribute to our AI future, but to actually own a piece of it. The real question is, what part will you play?